G'day friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talk Stuff. The 2030 movement of Korea is an interesting political phenomenon. It is a direct result of the backlash of young Koreans, mostly young men, 20 to 30, who are sick of political discrimination and political favoritism to a increasingly ungrateful minority who, no matter what, just keeps demanding more privileges, and have openly stated that they hate Korean men and they want to destroy Korea. So why shouldn't feminists suffer the consequences of their actions? Why must they have political power? Should they, why, right? If they want to murder Korea by killing its population, why should they have any rights? Should not Koreans defend themselves? Right? If they're murdering babies, shouldn't Korea defend itself? They are widely condemned by the mainstream media or ignored. They can hold marches like this in Guadalajara, in Busan, and not make the Western media. Yet BLM, with 14 people at the BLM march, makes the media. Korean people will fight for their freedom and continue to fight for their freedom. Young people in their 2030s are making their political voices heard. Koreans are increasingly divided about the 2024 martial law. Many of them are realizing that it was a mistake to remove the president. But now, what are they? They're suffering cultural relativism, aren't they? That Koreans want Korea. They don't want liberal globalist agenda. But who, of course, right? Korea is facing a population collapse, and their population will be gone by the end of the century. They'll never recover. Now, the solution is not importing black women to produce more Korean babies. That's for certain. No. Nor is it paying Korean women. It's basically cut Korean women out. They don't want to have babies? Fine. They want abortions? Fine. They make it rule. You have an abortion? Bang. There goes they take it all. Right? There you go. You single, pay more taxes. You don't give the carrot to the people wielding the stick. And I think this is increasingly obvious to young Koreans, right? But it is a political division, and as you see, the trend is worldwide, right? Gen Z realize they are the ones who now have to carry the torch for national identity, cultural identity, language, and jobs, right? Because boomers cling to the New World Order, the globalist agenda. Why? Because boomers benefited, right? They invested early in all these big companies. They got rich from shifting jobs overseas and flooding the country with cheap goods. They don't have to pay the debt. They get to die and contribute nothing to society. They're nothing but consumers. Rabid consumers who should, of course, have, by all rights, have all their assets taken off them. All right, you're retiring now, thanks, we'll take all your assets, pay the national debt to cover your health care, because you didn't save, right? Stop coddling, right, the special generation, right? They're not special. But the 2030 movement is a collective. It is not an individual movement, though it is mostly young adults in their 20s and 30s, a demographic that has become now a critical swing vote in Korean politics. They no longer have party loyalty. They only focus on economic issues to deal with them. Now, young voters no longer support progressive movements around the world, decreasingly so. They increase priorities like job security and meritocracy. Many young men, particularly Koreans, are sick and tired of women getting privilege while they have to do all the hard work, and yet women get subsidies for everything, and yet they turn around and kill young baby men before they even born, and gleefully chant in the streets, "There's nothing you can do to us." Well, yes, there is. Your political power will be taken away from you, and it will be justified. Right? Women keep complaining, but they keep consuming, and they keep under-producing, and quite frankly, the world doesn't need millions of women in the workforce. We're overproductive, right? We have far too many people in the office. We've had far too many bureaucracies, right? We don't need more people in the workplace. We need less. We need less machines. We need less output. We need our economies to be less dependent on prices being $9.99 and the government taking $9 of that in taxes to fund liberal programs for ungrateful boomers who didn't pay their fair share of taxes. They enjoyed low tax breaks, bailouts, and adding to the national debt every day with their ever-increasing healthcare costs. Because they won't sell their benefits. Because, yeah. Now, the vote is shifting away from boomers. This all of a sudden, it's a crisis. Right? Now, a lot of it is driven by the fact that Koreans do not want to be the last generation. Right? Now, they want structural transformations. Right? They want to get rid of the climate and energy products. They want a major urban renewal. They want a disaster-resilient city. They want to reopen schools, reopen transport. They want Koreans to have more holidays, more leisure time, more affordable housing, right? And Korea doesn't have a housing crisis because of mass migration. It has a housing crisis because of cost, right? There are large numbers of houses in Korea that are empty. People have said quite out loud, right, that Korea does not have the same problems as America. And a lot of Koreans who are political activists are actually American Koreans. They're not Korean in Korea. So I'm not telling Koreans how to vote. I'm telling you what they are increasingly looking for in their political sphere. Now, of course, there's Agenda 2030, which also makes search results hard. But, yeah. Young Koreans thinking logically, right? And, let's say, common sense, right? Cannot work out, right, why Korea has this huge national security, right? This engagement and disengagement, these political games with North Korea, and yet why don't they just cut them off and what is this liberal democracy? If you know, you're going to ban things, not ban things. You got national security laws, which nobody can figure out which is subjective, right? If they don't like you, bang, national security. You threaten just national security, right? National security laws have been used to shut down strikes, force students to join the military instead of completing their degrees, finding their jobs given more and more to women anyway, that all their national, and after national service, what do? They just grind for the factories, right? Constitutional order, liberal democracy means nothing to these people. These are just words. Same with investments. They don't care about investments for private wealth funds if they're not providing jobs. If all that it's doing is exploiting labor to labour to export goods that they are sold for the profit of foreigners, right? It's the same in every small country, right? It's not just Korea. Every small country faces this problem. But yes, there are problems in South Korea, and yes, they are looking to robotics, they are looking to artificial wombs, they are looking to save their country, but at the same time they refuse to face the issues and ban, because liberal democracy, ban feminism, ban abortions, do what is necessary for the safety and security of Korea. They have the laws, they just won't use them. And of course, the feminists are increasingly pushed out, right? They're saying that Korea will stop existing to unprecedented historic. Actually, there is a historical precedence to this before. There is an early period in human history where the vast numbers of evidence of human civilization, right? Large early civilizations collapsed with the people disappearing. Minoans, many populations have many islands across the world. It's not inbreeding. They lasted for many generations. They could have gotten on sailboats, gone to other countries. No. They didn't have children. They got old and lazy and just died off because it was too much work, I suppose. There's no biological reason why Minoans and many societies disappeared in the past. No diseases, nothing. But we're increasingly get away. There is not much in English. And also, again, researching something like the Korean 2030 movement, you're going to run into media bias as well. They are trying to silence and... They are trying to silence the... they're a threat to the establishment, right? Increasingly, young men, politically active, right? They outcompete. They they're hot. They're because of their desire. They're outstripping women now in university graduations, although not by much. Every time a feminist demands something, they say okay and walk away, and feminists are now blaming men for the population decline of Korea. It's women, right? Women aborted millions of babies in Korea, right? As far as I'm concerned, isn't that mass murder? That's akin to genocide, right? And all they could do is say, well, you wouldn't pay for it. Always about themselves. No accountability whatsoever. I'm not here to tell you about the abortion debate. I think most people realise that, right, it's the individual's choice, but you should have consequences to your actions. If you have an abortion, I reckon nobody should, I don't want anything to do with you. Go, get, if you want to murder babies and blame everybody but yourself, all right, for your promiscuity, for your hookup culture, for your laziness, you're engaging in copulation, right? You're engaging in reproductive actions, and you expect what, right? It is beyond belief how incredibly selfish people have become in the last, since World War II. And again, it's because, all the nobility of humanity was sent to war, isn't it? Everything that was left, that's what it is, right? You send all the good men to die and you have what's left breeding. This is the liberal world order, that's what they do, right? They can't stand merit because strong men scared him. He's bugging me, scared him, he might hurt me. You know, so you got things like accusations of rape without proof, and women say, oh, you got to believe all women. And now we're seeing how many women lie. You know, as if women can't lie. Oh, why would you lie about that? Jeez. I wonder what the financial motive is, or the revenge motive. You know, oh, wow. You know. But again, many progressives, former progressives in their youth, are now turning, not to the right, to the centre, right? They have become, right, a political football, right? Increasingly, the left is going more and more radical to appeal to trying to get the feminist vote locked in, and eventually people are just going to say, you know what? Hey, Cam, you want all these commies? Catapult. Yeah. Why these commies won't go live in North Korea is beyond me, right? It's the same with commies in America. Go live in Canada or Mexico. Why not? Yeah, you keep threatening to go to Canada. Why is that? Why aren't you going to Mexico, you racists? Or Cuba? Or Venezuela? Plenty of room in Venezuela. Or why are these communist Chinese in America not living in communist China? You know, this is the problem, okay? I mean, Margaret Thatcher said it, you know, communism works until they run out of other people's money. And that's why America is in debt, you know, because people won't, every time someone wants to cut the budget, you know, there's a flurry of phone calls and a flurry of threats, you know. But I think, you know, if there was a 2030 movement in America that was just as organised. I mean, South Korea's 2030 movement is organised on a personal level. It's not on social media in large numbers. They're not loud and proud and recruiting. Okay, this is not a political party, right? It is a influence of people who have shared ideas of how they can affect change. And by demanding more of our politicians to stop favouring feminism, right, to come back to the centre, I do not have a problem with that. Okay? Some mgtow may have a problem with that. That's your individual decision. That's why I say mgtow is a movement and should remain such. It should not be a political organisation. You could get, and I think increasingly anti-feminism, right, as I showed yesterday, 25% of the world identifies in some way as an anti-feminist. This has the UN now panicking, right? The Korean 22 movement has the liberal, democratic, New World Order establishment panicking, right? As soon as you watch, right? If the focus is taken off gender equality and back to meritocracy and stop favouring women and stop this obsession with overproduction and constant price rises, constant wage rises. It's all driven, you know, like all the school teachers. Oh, we're going to have more school teachers. Yet, look, what has more school teachers done for Korea? Less children, right? Less Koreans, right? And a growing national debt, growing economic instability. What has women in the workforce done? Contributed to overproduction and the decline of standards of living, because in the first couple of years you have an income boost, but then that's all going to be paid for. That debt has to be paid for somehow. So the government either you pay through taxes or pay for inflation, and these days you're paying both. Or because boomers were a selfish bunch of assholes who got through on low taxes up until Reagan. After Reagan, you know, taxes started going up, right? You had the Clintons, you had automatic tax increases because of increased debt in America. You had various wars and crises that force prices up anyway. But Korea, Koreans, all eyes on Korea, but the 4B movement spreading to China, spreading through Japan. Feminism is hit Thailand. Actually, Philippines are advertising to come marry Filipinos right now because they're the only traditional women left in the world, allegedly. So you actually are seeing the reasons why civilizations collapse. See, civilization doesn't collapse because we have good times and they stop. No, good times stop because the people just keep getting greedier and greedier. They go from satisfied to bored. And when they get bored, they want gladiatorial games, they want conflict. Look at the conflict in Ukraine, look at, how panic over the communists in North Korea. Not saying the communists in North Korea were innocent babes in the woods, but the cowardice of Harry S. Truman, right, taking all the success of MacArthur because he wanted a political solution. He wanted the North Koreans to come to their senses and submit. He's a fucking moron. Truman, Obama, they're all fucking morons. Okay? They rise to the top because they're charismatic, not because they have merit. Right? The problem is with people is they want their charismatic leaders because they're so cool. Oh, look at Clinton, he can play the saxophone. What's that got to be with the president? What's the fact that Obama's got nice manners and a nice suit that makes him a president? No. Right? Boomers and their appearances and their phony aristocratic, ever increasingly pathetic, fake virtue. People are sick of it. Sick of boomers. Sick of them always wanting more healthcare and more housing and more this and more. How about you build it? How about no, we're too old. We already earned our share, but you didn't pay your fair share of taxes, did you? You squandered it. You had your 2-car garages. You had your 6-week holidays. You went on trips around the world, but you never paid for your health care. You never paid for national defence. You just kept billing it all to the government all the time, billing everything to the government. Feminists should pay the price of their actions, and 2030 aims by the 2030 movement aims by 2030 they have a national vision to restructure, because as every year the boomers can only decline, right? Their political power is spent, right? In America, their political power is still slightly there, but it's in decline. It's why they're so desperate to bring in more illegals, right? And all these other obsessed, right? Tyrants are always obsessed with migrants, right? I don't care which political party it is. If you're obsessed with migrants, it's the biggest thing that's lost voters for political parties throughout Asia, right? And it should be so in America, right? Canada, they're going to lose a couple of states, maybe. We'll see. They might pull a National Security Act yet. They may arrest the Sacheron government yet. They have threatened to do it before, like they did with Quebec. Or they may cave suddenly say, we'll give you a 2% tax rise, like they did with Quebec. Bought off all the influencers. Carney doesn't seem to even panic as he, gets in bed with China. And you know who's on top of that relationship, and it's not Carney. But again, one of the biggest threats to Korea is China, and the 2030 movement aims to kick out and displace all the pro-Chinese activists, displace all the politicians who, in the past, sided with the feminists and the boomers, right? Right? They want to return focus to Korea, Korean economics, Korean culture. They want to get rid of the controversial aspects of the national security law because it gives the power to government too much power of arrest over dissidents, yet they allow North Korean women to actively walk around, South Korean women to actively walk around talking about murdering babies and having a good old laugh about it, saying you can't do anything about it. Yet, under their own laws, that is a threat to national security, right? Anything that threatens the existence of Korea, including murdering babies to deliberately destroy the Korean population, should be a no-brainer. But unfortunately, again, it comes down to, well, there's too many people to get that shit arrested, will you? Just deport them all to North Korea. They'll soon, yeah. Let these South Koreans be North Koreans' problem. They'll soon, you only have to deport a few. They'll soon stop. Right? They'll soon learn to shut the fuck up. And you want to be a feminist and sit in your little apartment with your cats and wine box? Good. Pay higher taxes. Pay for your own healthcare. See how you go. Because I'm sick and tired, all right, of those in genuine need going without because those who can work won't, or they just keep wanting their cake and to eat it too at the expense of the rest of the population. All right, it's like all these overpaid actors. They make millions of dollars and they get paid through offshore accounts into trust funds, and they pay the minimum tax, and they put all this money into, people go, oh, look, Deadpool gave money to Children's Hospital. We go see his movie now. Yeah, stop influence peddling, right? And this is where the 2030, they're basically saying, right, we give up our weekends not to just to shout at you, but to actually inform you of what's really going on, how the media is lying to you, and that the manosphere, or whatever you want to call it, 2030, manosphere, mgtow, whatever they label you throw at us, right? All we want is a return to a productive career based on merit. Nobody's going to have extra rights. No more baby bonuses. That's a privilege, right? Because a country full of women is just one generation away from extermination or conquest. So why should feminists get privileges? Why should they be given jobs? Why should government jobs be made for them? If you have $100 million, right, and you spend $200 million, you go broke. You can't get another $100 million. This is the problem with countries. They can just make up money. They can just continue on and on. They can be bankrupt. Look at Africa, right? Bankrupt beyond belief. They'll never pay their debts, yet people keep giving them money. You have to tough love people. What does it say in the Bible? Oh, we give them everything. We humiliate ourselves. We good neighbors doesn't mean, all right, does not mean say, hey, Mexico, we'll give you all this land. No, that's not a good neighbor. That's what benefit? What is it? You're selfish. You're ever increasing the so-called charity for your own selfish fake virtue. So you could get all the kudos. Right? You're not humble. Boomers are pathetic consumers. Right? If they weren't, there wouldn't be a debt. Right? Debt is a result of overspending. So, yeah, there should be a boomer tax. Right? Start with all the corporations. Right? With all their wealths and all their charities and all their trust funds. They're not paying their fair share. Get rid of all these corporate tax loopholes. Everybody's now on income tax. No special treatment. No special tax codes. No subsidies for Hollywood. No subsidies for movie stars. No subsidies for actresses. Look at them all scream, right? This is why Hollywood is screaming, so you don't focus on them. They're always screaming at someone else, so you don't focus on them. Whether it's Korea, China, all around the world, actors are bleedingly, massively overpaid, right? And then in other movements around the world, we have the Let It Rot, we have the anti-influencer movement now, we have the anti-feminist movement. And again, most of these are not making the mainstream media. And they do not seem to yet be of a topic of interest. And I guess that's all because the YouTube algorithms, which suppress, the AI says, oh, we don't know what channel we don't know what people to recommend your channel to. Yeah. Recommend my channel to right-thinking people, not to left-wing nuts who think that their existence on this earth is to take everything from the productive and give to the underproductive, and say, look at me, God, I'm a special. Yeah, meanwhile they worship Satan. Isn't that right, Bunny? Hey, actually, Bad Bunny admitted that. So, yeah, it's a hard movement to pin down because, again, it's a loose federation of young men who are sick and tired of being at the wrong end of the political stick, right? They keep, all their life, they've been made promises, right? They've been showing a society, right, on TV where, the Korean love story, the Korean married life, all the dramas, right? Korea is so full of drama, right? Unbelievable amount of... They are such a highly creative country, right? Some of the best video games, some of the best movies, some of the best television shows. But they're showing you a life that does not exist. They're showing you a career that does not exist. And these young people are saying, no, we want the career like you promised on TV. Right? All these politicians, they get on TV and promise that their life is going to be glamorous. You're going to go, work hard, buy a suit, go out with the wife, send your kids to the best education. And we had the best education in the world on all these promises. Yet, at the same time, screaming in the pews are the women saying, no, no sex, no marriage, no children, no dating. So Korean men says, what are we working for? What are we fighting for? We're not fighting for them. And you keep telling us, yes, we're going to look into housing for soldiers and all these benefits, but it never comes, right? Some of them may get a college degree, here and there, but for the most Korean men, it's, now go find a job. So, the pressure on Koreans is underpinned by a financial crisis that they do not understand because it is not of their making, right? The communists would want you to blame the American occupation, that's the only thing keeping you free. And actually, the American occupation's saving you billions in defense cost expenditure. And now, of course, increasingly, Koreans losing shipbuilding advantage to China because of basically the whole world subsidizes China by accepting their, buying their crap and accepting their low value of their currency. Even though they're the second largest economy in the world, they should be on, their value. It's a crazy existence right now. But for men, increasingly, you either walk away or get politically active. You decide. I'm just going to inform you of what's happening and allow you to make up your own mind, because that is the true essence of mgtow. You go your own way. But along the way, we asked, just simple things like a share, subscribe, let's help get the message. Let's spread the message because, your life gets better if you don't feed the boomer. I'm not a boomer. I'm Gen X, and Gen X did not have political power and still doesn't have much political power, right? Because of the ridiculous lifespan and we fall right after the boomers, right in their shadow. Now, increasingly, yeah, Gen Xers and Gen Y and millennials are getting into a political office. But, you know, the wealth lies with the boomers, who are increasingly dying off. You know, most of them, you know, what is it? There's only like 500 billionaires left. Only 300 something of those in America. And most of those aren't American either. Most of the Indian and Chinese billionaires have moved to America. So that tells you where the economic engine of the world lies still, right? It's definitely not with India, right? The future's not with India or China, right? The billionaires would not risk their entire life, right, on leaving their countries of origin if they weren't, you know, it's dangerous to be a millionaire in China. It's even more dangerous to be one in India. Heaven forbid you be one in Africa without political protection. And that it's like every country. Like, how does Ukraine produce 9 billionaires? Of course, we know, right? War profits. So hopefully I haven't gone too far, that you understand that the Korean 2030 movement is grossly misrepresented in the media. They are not loud and proud. They are just doing what they believe is common sense, right, to return to a society where the rules equally apply to every Korean equally, and that your job is based on merit, not on political connections or your gender, and the government does not artificially make jobs to cater to buy votes. How hard is that? Unfortunately, it seems to be very hard for most to comprehend that there only needs to be a cut of 10% in the workforce to bring back up to reduce the overconsumption and to bring down the debt. But doing that seems to be an impossible political task because the left still are violent and the government, of course, don't want to build camps to put them in because that would be fascist. But this is what the left do. They dare you to enforce the law. Right? They break the law and then dare you to enforce it. It's calling you fascist. And the idiots in the middle, the libertards, they can't tell the difference between regular law enforcement because they're so grown up, right? A lot of not all Gen X, but a lot of Gen X and Gen Y and millennials think protesters have the right to burn, to loot, to do anything to win because resistance, the heroes of the war. Well, the heroes of the war were not heroes; they were murderers, and most of them lived the rest of their lives in peace and regret. You do not want to live like that. So thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I should say watching. So please like, share, and subscribe. Please understand that there are multiple definitions out there of 2030, but I am talking about the Korean 2030 movement to deal with the young adults 20 to 30 who are increasingly sick and tired of the political swing against them to a violent, vile minority who hates them. So why should they care about feminists? And why should you? Feminists don't care about anybody but themselves. They want their cats, their wine box, and their endless supply of free housing, free healthcare, and free money. They want increasingly subsidised lifestyles. They now want days off for their menstruation. They want more holidays, because they have to recover, take longer to recover. All these excuses to keep getting more. And of course, increasingly, like boomers like Liam Neeson and Hera Millen and all these other has-beens out there, trying to demonize any movement against, the United Nations approved mandate. So if the big names of the yesteryears are panicking over the rise of masculinity, you're doing the right thing, man. keep at it. Keep, whatever you're doing good, right? Because if they hate it, if the establishment hates it, remember, does Liam Neeson pay your bills? Does he care if you're starving? No. Does he care that you have to go without adequate health care and have to wait months for a doctor just so that he can, sell overpriced candy bars to Africa and call it, food security? No. We wouldn't have this crisis if they weren't sending aid to Africa and tying it to the number of children they had. No. Everybody else gets cut off from child support at 2. Why can't Africans get cut off? Increasingly. Same with Korea. Why is Korea going to pay foreign aid? Right? When their economy's in crisis. Why should they be sending money to other countries when they have got their own internal problems? Same with America. No, got debt, no foreign aid. Bang, there goes the debt. Thai politicians who who demand a pay rise, bang, you're fired. Right? Debt, no thank you. Yeah. And again, all these benefits, no, cut them off. Right? Liberals argue it's only a small amount. Well, if it's only a small amount, then they shouldn't miss that money, should they? So, see you, please support the channel. I know it's only a small amount, and please, any amount will do. But you support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon for only $1 a month. Come on, and buy my books, buy my merch, $3.99. Come on, and I'm really, hoping that some of you actually do support the channel, but. Anyway, I appreciate it if you just give us a like. Hit that like button like it's your last cigarette. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.